Hi, Nathan. Welcome.
Hi, thanks. Thanks
Yeah,
for
I
having me.
see. Yeah, I see a couple people already on. So thank you so much, guys, for showing up. So why don't you? Yeah, we're gonna be talking. It's gonna be an exciting topic. My favorite topic about money and then financial trauma and all of that about therapy, the mind. So yeah, Nathan, why don't you introduce yourself? Yeah, what you do right now, and then I know you're doing a lot right now. So why don't you go over that so I don't miss anything?
Sure. Hi, my name is Nate Astle. I am finishing up my master's degree in couples and family therapy at Kansas State University, and with a focus on financial therapy. I'm also getting a master's in financial planning at the same time from Kansas State University. So my goal is so I can be dually licensed and trained in both fields. My research and clinical area is in couples. Couples with financial conflict is a big one that
Mm-hmm.
I just love, and it's a weird thing to say that you love when couples fight about money, but I do because I'm like, yay! That means there's some
Uh-huh.
things I can do here. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's me.
Cool. Yeah, you should. I'm tagging my friend Adam because like he's also focusing on couples, and then I think there's another. I don't know if you know him. He's been hanging out more on LinkedIn, and there's another one, Christine Lucan. She's also a money coach, and then she also I think yeah she also focuses on couples as well. I mean, I do have couples as well. I mean, like so for me, I don't technically just like focus on like a niche in terms of like oh that's all I serve, that's all I serve. So I love helping
Mhm.
all kinds of people. So but I do have a couple of couples as well, and then like I like it that when they come to me when they're just engaged and they haven't married yet, so they want to talk about their finances. So that makes me feel better that they're starting to think about the finances before getting married because it's important, right? When you're just dating, you wanna start thinking about that already. So
Mhm.
tell me, Nathan, what inspired you to focus on this? Like why couples fighting about money, and then like let's talk more and deep dive into more of that.
Yeah. Well, I think, well, okay, well, what we know from research is that financial stress is a huge problem
Mhm.
in couple relationships. Some of the top things that couples fight about are sex, money, in-laws, and gender roles, like household chores, things like that.
Oh, okay.
Um, and we, as a field in psychology and in therapy, we've been there's a lot out there on how do you address sexual issues in a couple, or how do you, different things about household chores. Like there's a lot out there, but honestly, money has been largely avoided
Mhm.
in psychology. There's some
Mhm.
things here and there, but um, as far as how do you help people, it's been largely
Mhm.
understudied.
Mhm.
Um, Personally, it came from my own experience growing up, watching my own parents fight about
Mhm.
different money
Mhm.
topics, and that had a
Mhm.
profound impact on me. Just as a kid watching, and it's always hard to see parents fight, and that's but when it's tied with money, my own personal relationship with money is gets confusing because then all there's all these big feelings
Mhm.
um, about myself and about money, even if I wasn't directly involved. So
Mhm.
that's what made me want to do therapy. And then I kind of fell backwards into the financial therapy part because
Mhm.
I was working here. There's a peer to peer financial counseling program at Kansas State.
Mhm.
And, and I was like, oh, money, that's always been fun. And then
Mhm. Mhm.
um, the more I learned about it, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much weight here, there's so much depth to our emotions around money. So ever since I've been gung ho and I've loved it.
Got it. Got it. So what do you think cause couple to fight about money? Like what are those triggers usually, and then like what kind of couples can really get along with money, and then what are easy ways? I guess like okay, when you're just starting to date, like if you have to like advise a couple going back in time, like what would you advise them so they will even avoid these problems when they're just in the dating stages still?
Yeah, well, there's a lot there.
I asked the most complicated question, don't I?
Yeah, no. there's lots of different reasons why people fight in general, but about money. Um, to start out with, I usually try and look at what are their money values. Why is the conflict there? Is it about money? Because
Mm.
sometimes we are fighting about money, but we're not really fighting about money. We're fighting about power. We're fighting about
Oh, yeah.
not feeling like I have a voice.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
maybe we're fighting about not feeling appreciated or understood. And
Mhm.
money is just the language we're using to fight about. It happens all the
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
Um, if they are specifically fighting about money, and it's like,
Mhm.
no, it's actually about money. Like our sex life is fine, our kids are fine, we communicate pretty fine.
Yeah.
If it really is about money, I would start looking at what are they valuing. Um,
Mhm.
some people really want to like the fire movement. Some people really want to retire early, and
Mm. Yep.
um,
Yep.
some people have that dream. But if my partner doesn't view it the same, my partner wants to work
Mhm.
longer and doesn't have a problem with that. Maybe they want to put more money into, I don't know, your children's college. That's fine and
Mhm.
great. Neither of those are bad. It's just that they're values that are
Mhm.
opposing.
Got it.
So, some healthy ways to go about that, one is make sure that you're validating your partner. Um,
Mhm. Yep.
if all you're doing is telling them that they're wrong and telling them that their values or what they want aren't right for the family, you're you're really closing doors for communication.
Mhm. Yep.
And you're not going to be able to actually solve anything.
Mhm.
All you're adding to is them feeling like they can't trust you. um,
Exactly.
so listening, have good skills, and how do we communicate? There's lots of free resources out there. The speaker listener technique by Howard Markman is a marriage therapist. It's a very
Mhm.
simple technique that can be
Mhm.
utilized very well, and you can just Google that speaker listener technique, and
Mhm.
you can learn that.
Mhm.
Um, but talking once you're able to identify some of these values, identify, okay, are there ways that we can compromise here?
Mhm.
And
And if you can't really compromise, then you'll have to ask yourself, is this the right relationship for me? Like if like you have to compromise so much of who you are, like you have to really know who you are, your core, like who are you? And then like you have to if you have to bend so much for the other person, then you have to ask yourself, am I willing to lose a little bit of my like a little bit of yourself? Probably okay, because some compromise you have to do, but if it's a lot and you give up some of who you are, then you have to ask yourself, is this the right relationship for me? And then you might have to accept that it's probably not, and you have to move on. So okay, Melissa asked a good question. What about couples that aren't financially equal? I've seen that cause issues in relationships when one person makes significantly more than the other. Actually, yeah, that brings me to my other question about if one is a saver, one is a spender. So yeah, what's your thoughts on that, Nathan?
yeah, that's a great question. So most couples aren't always in the exact same bracket. There's usually one
Mm-hmm.
partner that makes more than the other. The
Mm,
important thing
yep.
to remember is research shows that couples with the highest marital satisfaction are couples that share finances.
Mm,
Um,
yep.
and so what that means, it's more than just like a shared checking account. It's about,
Mm-hmm.
do I have equal say in the relationship?
Yes,
So
exactly.
my partner might make more than me, um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's our money. And so one thing I suggest, I think honestly, I think it's a pretty good rule is, so you have both of your incomes,
Mm-hmm.
you bring it together. There's going to be some shared expenses, like if you're
Mm-hmm.
living together, rent or
Mm-hmm.
groceries, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then, like you said earlier, Christine, you don't want to compromise yourself. I might
Mm-hmm.
like Legos, and I might just want to buy, I don't know, hundreds of dollars in Legos. And my partner, maybe they want to spend more money on, I don't know, their hobby, whatever they like. Um, it can really easily lead to resentment if
Mm-hmm.
I always get what they want and they don't. and they
Mhm.
have to sacrifice or vice versa. So what I
Mhm.
recommend is once you have your combined income,
Mhm.
and you're paying for the things that you both benefit from,
Mhm.
like rent or groceries, things like that, then
Mhm.
put aside a little bit of money that's just yours, and it has to be the same
Mhm.
amount. So maybe each of
Mhm.
you get $100 a month, or $50 a month, or $10
Mhm.
a month. It
Yep.
doesn't matter, and
Mhm.
you can spend it on whatever you want. You can go blow it on ice
Mhm.
cream. You can do whatever you want,
Mhm.
but it's your
Mhm.
money.
Okay.
And then you're allowing for some autonomy in the couple
Mhm.
financial relationship without being irresponsible and we're all just buying whatever we want.
Mhm.
But that equality is huge. And
Mhm.
if they're not financially equal, it's probably more than just their finances. It's probably other ways that
Ex-
they aren't equal in their influence
exactly.
in the relationship.
Exactly. It's a manifestation of other things, other issues in the relationship. So yeah, that's why like when I look at the emotional aspect as well as money of money, like I also look at everything. That's why like I ask them a lot of questions with my client as I get to know them, and then you start to realize like yeah, like they're not happy in other ways too. So that's probably something that need to be explored as well. So that brings me to mind like I also have my own opinion on this, but what is your opinion about joint versus separate? Like if for people or couples versus married, like do you think they should go joint, separate? Like what's your opinion about that?
Yeah, there isn't a whole lot of research on there. Honestly, there's a handful of articles,
Mhm.
specifically on couple outcomes and joint versus separate bank accounts.
Mhm.
There, couples with joint accounts tend to have higher marital satisfaction, but I think it
Mhm.
goes beyond the actual account itself. It's not like there's this magical thing about having a shared account. I think it's
Mhm.
a reflection of the power and that equality. Um, so I honestly think it can work either way as long as both of you have access to the information. There's not
Mhm.
financial infidelity going on where one of you is
Mhm.
hiding money
Mhm. Yep.
from your partner, hiding money or hiding debt. That's also
Mhm.
a
Yep.
problem.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but as long as both of you have equal say and you have equal access to information, like it, I can go in and check my partner's account if I really needed to, and um,
Mhm.
not that I'm
Yep.
saying that's like a good thing to be checking in on your partners. It's just about the
Mhm.
culture of the couple that you're trying to
Mhm.
foster.
Exactly, exactly. So for me, what has worked for my client is that I think even me, like when I get into a relationship, like we're gonna have our joint and then we're gonna have our own separate stuff. So for me, what has worked out, I mean, I've always attracted men who are already very good with money, and so what happens is that when we go out, it's just fairness. You go, sometimes I pay, sometimes he pay. We go back and forth. There's a fairness there, and then
Mhm.
like for joint, like with my last relationship, the joint we had a joint because we only house together, so everything housing stuff go to the joint, but then we are gonna have our own separate stuff. And even if I get married, I still want that because then I want you. That's your money. You can buy whatever toys you want. I don't really care. Whatever it doesn't affect me, then I'm fine. Whatever makes you happy. So I'm gonna have my own too because I really don't want to have to make my partner make me feel accountable for whatever I buy, whatever. So it just gives you some sense of freedom, and then you can not so you don't are not controlling each other, and there should be a foundational trust between the partners. If you can't even trust, then why are you even in the relationship? And then it actually surprised me why IRS, there's actually two forms called injured spouse and innocent spouse. So
Mhm.
that has to do with like innocent spouse, like you don't know about your client's debt, and an injured spouse, you had your clients had a previous debt and then it was taken out from your refund because you didn't know about it, so you have to file that form so you can be liable only for your debt. So that's why they do merit filing separately just so you can be liable for your own return. So it kind of makes me sad. It's like they had to do that because so it's like so to me having that financial harmony is very important in a relationship. Yeah. So okay, let me look at the question with huge discrepancy. Okay, like William said, with respects for some people with huge discrepancies in income, then perhaps things should be organized using percentages. For example, both put 80% on their income into joint decision accounts, 20% from each into splurge or hobby, spending that it in their own to decide upon. I don't know. What do you think? Should people divide that by their income, the percentage?
It's a fair point. Um,
Mm.
The only pushback I have on that is the assumption, and perhaps I'm wrong with this, William, but I feel like the assumption is that I earn everything that I make, which might be true, but there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of unpaid labor that goes into relationships. For
Mm-hmm.
example,
Yeah, exactly.
let's say I make 3 times as much as my partner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, that doesn't mean I'm 3 times as valuable. What that
Exactly. I love that. I love that. Yeah, it's like
uh,
what one is like taking care of the kids, and then like I'm not making any money. You're making
yeah.
100% of the money. So I think that's putting too much value on like your income, but not
Mhm.
really on the overall stuff, the overall partnership. So I love that. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're totally right. And so
Hmm.
there's lots of little things, and it goes beyond, uh, like there's emotional labor, and then there's mental labor. And so
Hmm.
yes, I might be taking care of the kids, or
Hmm.
I'm working less hours, or whatever it is. But there's also the mental load, and this is a big topic. But
Hmm.
who's keeping track of doctor's appointments? Who's keeping
Yep.
track
Yep.
of these other things? All of those things are energy, and
Hmm.
um, is a labor. It's
Yeah.
having to think about all these things. And so even if one partner is making more money, that's great, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's just it goes beyond financial equality, it goes beyond to relational equality. And so are those other unpaid labors being taken into account when you are deciding how to split up your budget?
Yep, yep, exactly. I love that. I love that. It's about like the energy. You have to look at all the energetical, like how are you gonna split that up? You can't just go by just income. That's very one side. That's just looking at it at the business sense. But are you in a business relationship? You're not in a business relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, okay, Mel saying, I held my household for almost 10 years. My spouse got a job about half what I did. We just put the money in a pile and paid bills accordingly. Most things we did together is a matter of how much is and is in our joint account. Thanks for sharing, Mel. Okay. So oh yeah, William, so of course it goes beyond financial equality. Yes, we get your point, William, but I think yeah, hopefully that makes sense. And then I think William, it's just a matter of like, what's fair between you and your spouse, right? So we can't, I mean, end of the day, I think to have a very healthy relationship, two people have to be whole. Two people are assertive. They know who they are. They know their boundaries. They know what's okay. Then they know how to communicate effectively, and not just one like keep wielding to the other, and then the other wielding to the other, or one's more aggressive. So it all boils down to you find the right partner, find someone you can trust, and then you can communicate very well, who always have your best interests at heart. You trust each other fully, and then that person is really your soulmate. You connect really at the deep level on the soul, and then you can communicate. These things should not be a problem to be able to communicate. So nobody's gonna tell you what's a fair formula. That's really up to both of you what's fair. Okay, so Arjun says unpaid labor in relationships. That's very true. When I was in insurance, I saw a lot of husbands having life insurance while the wives who take most care of the kids didn't have any. Well, Arjun, I'm not sure what you mean. So, do you mean like the life insurance covers the husband, and if something happens to the husband, the wife will be taken care of? And I think if the wife is not working, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not an insurance expert, so I'm not really sure if the wife still need to be covered, because then if something happens to her, the husband is still working, so there's still a financial source in the house. But if the husband is the only one working, I think the husband need to have health life insurance. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, Nathan, but that's my thinking. And but I'm not an insurance expert, so if you have any additional thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay, so William said, however, they are being taken into account by both partners, putting in an equal person. I had partner who wanted me to quit spending on acting. Okay, so let's move on to like, okay, let's talk about Nathan, about money scripts and money mindset. So what's your definition of money mindset, and then how does money scripts play a role in your financial success, with individuals or with couple?
Yeah. Well, money scripts in its basic form is just what do I believe about money? What
Mm-hmm.
and that it's simple, but it's also incredibly deep.
Mhm.
So if I have certain beliefs about money, maybe I'm more money avoidant. I don't like thinking about money. I don't like talking about
Mhm.
money
Yep.
when
Yep.
people are talking about their salaries. It really gives me cringe. Um,
Yeah.
all those things. One, and we can go into this maybe another time, but there's probably reasons
Mhm.
why you think that way. Maybe you were
Mhm.
socialized a certain way around money. Maybe you were told, maybe, and this is a thing. Media portrays rich people certain ways and poor people certain ways. There's usually virtuous the virtuous person who's the underdog, doesn't have a lot of money, and they topple the big rich person. That's
Mhm.
fine and well, but these money scripts, so this example of being more avoidant, I'm probably less likely to negotiate for my salary. I'm probably less likely to make financial decisions that make me more money because subconsciously I'm thinking about how bad it is to have money. Let's take the
Mhm.
opposite problem, where
Mhm.
money worship, where
Mm.
money is king, money solves all
Mm.
problems, and it's true that money is a very important resource. Um,
Mhm.
but there's people with money worship tend to overwork and be too focused on financial gain and maybe are lacking some of those emotional support systems.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm not paying, and these are all stereotypes. Not everyone is going to follow this out, but maybe I'm
Mhm.
spending less time on my relationships with my wife or family or
Mhm.
partner, um,
Yep. Yep.
because money is going to solve all my problems.
Mhm.
And that has its own set of problems. So
Mhm.
a money a money script or a money mindset, I think it begins with none of these scripts are inherently bad. It's just that you need to be aware of them.
Mhm.
I might have a script that's maybe more money avoidant because I have experiences that led me to believe that way.
Mm.
That's
Yep. Yep.
fine. But if I'm not aware of it, I could be making financial and life decisions that aren't helpful for me.
Yep, yep. So why do you feel people avoid money, and how do you go about healing that? Because sometimes it's usually because of their past, their traumas. Like, I don't know, they probably had a lot of debt or whatever. They have a negative experience, and they're like, oh, I don't want to think about money. Every time I think about money, it's like it triggers all this whatever memory. So how do you help? These people, because then to be always money avoidant, that's not healthy for your for your money relationship as well, or with your financial situation. So how do you go about helping your clients with that?
Yeah, that's totally fair. We all have our
Mhm.
reasons for why
Mhm.
we think and feel and behave the way we do.
Mhm.
Um, how do you help depends on your role. I would help as a therapist, I would help people differently than a money coach might, or
Mm.
a friend might, or a
Mhm.
parent.
Yep. Yep.
And so, first thing is, what's your role? Are you there to provide money advice? Are you a financial planner?
Mhm.
Or are you there to provide other types of support?
Mhm.
As a therapist or someone who's more trained in a mental health or clinician, I might talk
Mhm.
them through resources. I might use like emotional resources to understand. I might challenge some of the problematic thoughts that they're having. Maybe we're talking about emotions. I'm asking them to feel things,
Mhm.
but that might look very different from my money coach who isn't trained in that, and that's okay too.
Mhm.
Maybe you would do something like, where would you like to see yourself, and use more solution focused or
Mhm.
positive psychology lens, where
Mhm.
it's okay. If you what's life going to look like when you don't have money problems? Really explain it to me. Okay, so you wake up in the morning. There's a technique called the miracle question, which basically is, I want you to pretend that you go to bed tonight, and while
Mhm.
you're sleeping, a miracle happens and all your financial problems are gone.
Yeah.
Um, but you didn't know that it happened because you were asleep. Um,
Mhm.
what would it? What are some of the clues you would get when you first wake up? Well, I would notice that I'm not as stressed. I'm not waking up dreading work and dreading having to punch in and punch out. Okay, great. So you'd be feeling different about your job and yourself. What else would you notice? Well, when I look at my budget, I wouldn't be feeling fear or avoidance. I think I'd be excited that I'm on top of the ball. Great. So
Mm-hmm.
this miracle question is just an example of something I think a lot of people can
Mm-hmm.
use.
Got.
Um, yeah, just being aware of your role. And
Mm-hmm.
there's lots of literature. I'd point you to different books. So one book I really like for financial professionals is called Facilitating Financial Health. It's
Oh.
written by Brad Klontz.
Oh
And
yes, yes. He was a guest on my show. He has another book called Mind Over Money. So I started
mhm,
listening into that, but I haven't finished it. But yeah, yeah. He came on my show as well. Cool. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep. Cool. Cool. Wow. I should tag him and said watch this video. Okay. All right. So let's talk about self compassion. How does self compassion plays into the role of money? And then with the COVID happening, and I'm sure a lot of people are probably icky about it. Lots of things are coming up for them, people losing their job, whatever. So probably a lot of insecurity and all of that is coming up. So yeah, how does this play a role your in their finances?
yeah. Well, this is again, these are huge. Self compassion is there's some obvious things. Obviously, it's important to be compassionate to yourself. Um, what we're experiencing with the pandemic is not something that most of us have experienced before.
Mm-hmm.
This is a trauma, okay, and I think it's
Oh.
important we label it that. There are individual traumas maybe
Mm-hmm.
that you experienced in childhood or
Mm-hmm.
um, things that affect an individual life, but then there are
Yeah.
global traumas, things that
Yeah.
affect pretty much everyone.
Yeah.
And oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna before you proceed. Sorry to interrupt. Like, can you explain more? What does trauma mean?
hmm Yeah, so trauma is any event that negatively impacts the brain. So when we think of a traumatic brain injury, someone like in a
Mm-hmm.
motorcycle accident,
Mm-hmm.
um, those those injuries cause changes in our brain that make the person act and feel and think differently. Um, Trauma also can look like abuse growing up. If if you grew up in an abusive household, that trauma, that negative experience, is impacting the way you think and feel and behave. Um, those are all individual traumas. Global traumas are things like wars or poverty or a pandemic. So
Yep.
this pandemic is literally changing the way you think and feel. Maybe not directly. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
COVID hasn't been this huge part of your life,
Mm-hmm.
but you are noticing that the world feels a little less safe,
Yeah. Yeah.
and all those kinds of things. All of those feelings and thoughts are going to have big effects on your financial behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm having a scarcity mindset and that there aren't enough resources, so I'm going to buy a lot. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to overspend
Mm-hmm.
or be impulsive with my shopping.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've noticed that in myself. I'm on Amazon more than I've been before.
Oh.
Um,
Oh. Mm-hmm.
these are all normal responses to stress, and we're trying to reduce that scary part of our brain. So
Mm-hmm.
it's important to be compassionate to yourself that you aren't broken. You're not doing the worst thing ever. All you're trying to do is trying to survive and trying to get through
Mm-hmm.
this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't necessarily excuse hugely problematic financial behaviors, which is its own
Mm-hmm.
topic, but you can still hold space that you're just being a human right now. And it's
Mm-hmm.
okay if you go over your budget a little bit, and it's okay if you're responding to stress in the way you do now. I think it's important to seek out education, seek out help, so that it doesn't become a problematic pattern, but
Mm-hmm.
give yourself some grace to be a human.
Got it. Yep, that's where the self-compassion come in place. Like everyone's gonna experience some sort of trauma, right? So how do you heal from that? So love yourself enough to heal through that. Sometimes it might be, through spiritual, through therapy, to like I don't know, a healer or whatever speaks to you. Just go with the flow of your heart and see what speaks to you. So this is awesome. So thank you, Nathan. Do you have any last minute stuff to share and before we end this and then ask people how to find you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I do appreciate it. If you're interested about financial therapy or any of the stuff I talked about, I'd encourage you to go to financialtherapyassociation.org. It's a nonprofit organization, kind of like the Financial Planning Association,
Mhm.
where it's meant for practitioners. So it's meant for therapists, it's meant for financial professionals to come and get evidence based instruction on how do you be a better financial therapist if that's something you're interested in.
Yep.
Also, I'd point you to the Journal of Financial Therapy. It is a free academic journal. You don't have to be associated with the university. You don't have to pay for articles. Just type in
Mhm.
Journal of Financial Therapy, and there's tons of really great stuff in there. And
Mhm.
then lastly, for books, other resources, Facilitating Financial Health, Brad Klontz and Rick Kaler, who
Mhm.
are brilliant, and they have some really great hands-on experiences on or activities you can do with clients if this is
Mhm.
something you're interested in.
Got it. Cool. Well, great. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check out the financial survey because it's actually very interesting. Because I'm all about wanting to learn more things, getting more training. So that's good. So thank you so much. It's really great to hear your perspective about everything. So I really appreciate that. And then thank you so much, guys, for joining as well. And then I really appreciate that. And then have a great day, everyone. Bye, Nathan.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.